Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm here with my good friend Spencer Lund with an episode of Epic Mind Vision. Spencer is an amazing friend of mine who I've met in the digital marketing world. He is an amazing entrepreneur who has been through so many things in his life, and I just constantly learn from his experience as he puts out more content of his own and shares his experiences over time. And Spencer and I have had the luxury of spending time together, breaking bread together, talking about all kinds of epic mind visions that we have together. And I wanted to bring him on here and just get a little bit more insight into his journey and where he's been, kind of share with the audience all of the things that he's doing in his life to kind of bring a real approach to life that is a lifestyle that we would want to live and creating the life that we want to live. And I think that's what I really hone in on when I'm doing business is like, well, what can I eliminate? What can I create in my life that's going to give me the lifestyle that I want? That's going to give me the abundance that I want? That's going to give me the relationships and the time and the freedom to go and do the things that I want. So with that, Spencer Lund, welcome to Epic
What's up,
Mind
man?
Vision.
Thanks,
How you
thanks for
doing?
having me, Jeff. I'm doing well, man.
Yeah.
Happy to be on here to chat some mindsets and entrepreneurial journey, some overcoming obstacles and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks a lot for carving out the time to join me. I mean, I guess the first thing to do is just like who is Spencer? Like who's Spencer Lund? Where did he come from? How did he get here? What's the origin story with Spencer?
Yeah, man. Kind of a quick story about myself. Grew up in a traumatic household, had to overcome and currently still overcoming a lot of that pre-programming that I had as a child. But over the course of the last now 4 years, man, I've really been able to break a lot of the mindset issues, the pre-programming, and that was all due to my wife getting sick with COVID, actually, that opened that door for me to um, actually pursue mindset because up until the pandemic, I really thought mindset was bullshit. You hear a
Right.
lot of the cliche stuff, Jeff, of like, you can be anything you want to be and like all this other stuff. And then you look at the people that are telling you that and they're not wanting to be like they're still stuck in dead end
Right.
jobs and
Right.
such. So I never saw I never saw that the mindset piece actually work. And I got to a spot in 2020 when the pandemic hit and my wife was 80% bedridden that I had an opportunity, I guess, to just dabble in it, man. Like see what this
So what
mindset
was
stuff
that
is
as
about.
the catalyst? I'm sure that was a super challenging time for you. And I know you have kids and other responsibilities and everything, and to have that added to your plate, as many people did during that time, was so tumultuous. Like, how did that catalyst like kind of make you react in the way that you did to be like, okay, now I need to lean more into mindset?
Yeah, it was really it kind of was like an onion effect, if that makes sense. I started to uh just kind of I was able to slow down enough, even though I was super stressed, to start to look at alternative ways of thinking or healing. Um, I remember I was sitting in on a phone call with my therapist and I was explaining to him all my feelings of like, with Jen getting sick and like all this just extra pressure. And I at the time still owned two companies and dude, it was like only way I could describe it was I felt like I was drowning and
Yeah.
and
Overwhelmed, complete
yeah,
overwhelm.
just totally overwhelmed, dude. And just if I could have crawled into a hole and disappeared, I probably would have. But I had a lot of people counting on me, um, and he said, "Well, what are you doing to empty your cup?" And I was like, "Bro, did you not hear like the last half hour of the conversation, bro? Like, I'm so fucking stressed. I don't have any time for anything besides just like keeping the pieces together the best I could." And he'd suggested, you know, something that had worked for him, which is something that he had coined Forest Fridays, which is where he goes out in the forest and he puts up a hammock, and he spends a day out there. And I couldn't dedicate a whole day, but I dedicate a half a day on Fridays, rain or shine. And that really it helped. And it just kind of started progressing. I had, about the same time, had started to do the 75 hard program. And my wife was like, seriously, why fucking now? What are you doing? Right?
Right. Right.
And I'm like, just give me some time to figure this out. And it was almost like I needed to be doing my own personal work on myself while she was essentially like I was dealing with all this extra stress. It doesn't really make sense, Jeff. A lot of it doesn't make sense to me. But the pieces that I was able to, take away from that time that are still active in my life now, years later, and then it allowed me to kind of open that door of mindset and go, you know what? Like let's start to work on this manifestation stuff. Let's start to think positive. All this stuff that was super uncomfortable that I never grew up around. Um, you know, let's start to see like if I start to think about manifesting money and the dreams and the things that I want to do, like what could that become? And it's been absolutely amazing how quickly manifestation can actually work.
Yeah,
Um,
when you tune in, when you're on that frequency. I've seen
yeah.
you doing your Forest Fridays for years now since we've known each other, and I always try to comment or like on your posts because I want to encourage you to continue to do it. I had a similar thing happen in my life where I had this catalyst that kind of woke me up to really putting effort and time into mindset and changing my mindset and reprogramming all of those stories that I had from the past. So I can definitely identify with that. It's amazing. Not very many people, I think, get the opportunity to do a reset. And I think the reset for me has been life changing. I mean, you've come very far very quickly. I had a lot of challenges that I had to deal with my kids and keeping all of that stuff together along the way. And I continuously learned and grew through it, but I'm 10 years into this and it still amazes me,
Yeah.
how the people around me that I kind of magnetize are on similar paths and have had similar, you know, challenges in their life that have acted as a catalyst in that way. So that's amazing.
I
And
think
that you've been able to use that mindset to overcome all of that and build a successful business along the way.
Yeah, and I think honestly the universe continues to keep showing me on a regular basis, a lot of things that are coined those very cliche type of shit that you hear all the time, life's short, enjoy it.
Yeah,
Well, people have been dying around me in the last like 14 months like crazy, dude. And like it really makes me start to appreciate things, like last night I was actually thinking about um you ever heard of or thought about this like the one day that has changed your life? That for example, if you hadn't maybe met your wife, like went out on the date, your ex-wife, like if you'd still have kids, to this day, or like, you know what I mean? Like that one thing that changed your whole progression of life is crazy to think about. Like you could go out today and find something that would absolutely change everything for you. Meet somebody, do something, and it would change your whole trajectory, dude. It's
that's an
like,
interesting way to look at it. I don't think I've looked at it in quite that way. I've always looked at it looking back in the rearview mirror and thinking, wow, that was that moment. That was that thing that changed my life forever. But it's interesting to think of it in a forward motion where you're like, okay, well, what's that next thing that's going to be that catalyst? And it happens in real time. It's not that
there's
I'm
going
not
to be
aware of
something.
it, but I just
Yeah.
honing in on that, like you just said. I mean, that's an amazing viewpoint.
It's crazy. I just started thinking about this last night actually, and I was like, wow, like I think back now 7 years ish when I met my wife for a drink at Starbucks, and then we sat in the parking lot and we talked until like I don't know like midnight, um, and I still didn't know if she was into me. That was like the craziest thing. And like you fast forward now, like 7 years later, and we're married. And she's like, I remember she was like, yeah, I thought you're a douchebag. And I could talk to a wet mop, so like that's why I was talking to you. I'm like, wow, like okay.
That's great feedback.
Yeah, right. So, when it comes to just perception, I think uh, if we start to really tune into what's going on around the outside of us, your perception on life really starts to change,
Yeah.
especially when you have it's almost, I don't want to say you're being forced to look at things differently. You just have an opportunity to look at things differently.
Right.
Like, you know,
Well, a lot of people they look away when that happens. They get the opportunity, but then it's too painful, it's too scary, it's too whatever, and they just look the other direction and they don't move forward that way.
I mean, I think in general we all have the opportunity to change or to do something different. I was talking to I think he's 31-year-old kid that's a spray foam contractor the other day, and he was just mentioning through Messenger, like he was asking kind of like what I do for work and how I enjoy it. And he goes, yeah, I went to school for that and I really wanted to continue to do that, but it's like basically he was saying it's too late in life. And I was like, dude, it's never too
Wow.
late. It's never
Wow,
too
that's young. I've
it's
had
never too
multiple
late to
lifetimes since
change.
that age.
I know, yeah.
Multiple.
And multiple. Like I've had so many different careers. I feel like, at 45, I've lived like four different lives
Of
already.
course.
So
Yeah.
it's all
Well, let's
about
go back. Let's go back to manifestation for a minute because you've manifested some amazing things in the last couple of years, just since I've known you. What does that look like? What did that process of manifestation look like? Like, how did you get into that frequency? What was it that inspired you to kind of think in those ways to put that whatever that was on the board and go for it and make it a reality?
Yeah, so it first started off with a vision board, which I also thought was bullshit, right? It's like, oh, it's just something you do. It's more of like
Right.
a
It's craft,
arts
arts
and
and
craft
crafts.
project. Yeah,
Right.
not actually anything that happens.
Right.
And so I originally started with a vision board, and then for me, uh, I had always thought that Teslas were pretty cool cars, and I had been seeing a gal that I always say is like an emotional intelligence coach. She's teaching me what my emotions really mean. Because I think a lot of us, Jeff, I've kind of talked about this, is that a lot of us guys don't really even know what our emotions are. We've been like coined to like, boys don't cry, suck it up, quit acting like a baby, those type of things. And so like our emotion is like literally like happiness and anger, right?
Yeah. Right.
So it's
Right.
like, but that's really like that's your secondary emotion. Like, why are you angry? Is it because you're sad? Is it because you're scared? Is it because of whatever, right? Anyway, so I started, visiting with her, and I was like, oh my God, you guys have a Tesla X. And she goes, oh yeah, we have one of those and we have a Tesla S as well. And she's like, afterwards, I'll let you sit in it. I'm like, okay, cool. So we go out and I'm like looking at this thing. I've never been inside one. And she's like, want to go for a ride? And I was like, yeah, of course, right? And she's obviously knows what she's doing. She's very in tune. She's in tune with the frequency. She knows what she is doing as she is making this thing come alive for me. And then we got to this grocery store parking lot, and I mean, this like it's $120,000 car, and she's like, "You want to drive it?" And I was like, um, "Yeah,"
Hell
but
yeah.
it's scary as shit, right? Because it's a lot of money that you're driving around in.
Right.
So I
What was
drove
the
it
most expensive car you'd driven since or before that?
maybe like somebody's like BMW or like Mercedes, like nothing like. I mean, we're probably talking about a sixty
Right.
thousand dollar vehicle, $70,000 vehicle.
Right.
Um, so yeah, we got back to her office and she's like, hold on, let me take a picture of you. So she took a picture and she's like, it was almost like she was coaching the manifestation. She's like, now
Sure.
go home and print this out and stick it like next to your computer so you can see it every day. And dude, I stuck it next to my computer, and it was 11 months later that I bought my Tesla.
Nice. That's an
And
awesome story.
dude, like
I love that.
that really feels like I remember the day we were picking it up, Jen kept asking me, my wife, she kept asking me, she goes, babe, like, are you excited? And I'm like, it just doesn't feel real. And she's like,
Right.
but are you excited? I'm like, yeah, I'm excited, but it still feels like it's kind of like a dream.
Hmm.
Like somebody, I might wake up and it's gone, type thing. And I'm not materialistic as you know, but for me it was like this vision of like it could have been anything like that. I could have been, a new computer, it could have been whatever, a trip to Mexico, whatever it is. I just needed to like be able to prove to myself that I could actually manifest something.
Right.
And since then, now it's just really, we're working on becoming a seven-figure marketing agency. Um, and we love to travel, so it's now manifesting trips. Jen also wants to buy a farm with like 10 acres, so we're manifesting that. So lots of energy going out to the future. Um,
Right.
and really it's the money piece that actually allows you to be able to afford some of these manifestations.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think what I've learned over the last 6 to 12 months really is that when you focus on becoming the person who could have those things, then that's what attracts those things or allows you to step into having them.
Yeah.
Because you've built the skills, you've done the work, whatever that looks like. If you picture that you who's going to be driving that Tesla X, it wasn't the Spencer from before, right?
Yeah.
It's the new version 3.0, right?
Yeah.
Or
2.0 actually. I don't think I'm 3.0 yet. I'm
you're
I'm
not
still
3.0 yet. You're
yeah.
getting there. You're
Yeah,
getting there.
that the 2.0 was born after I started to basically be able to put some of this stuff into action and go out to the forest and my morning walks and like working on myself. That was 2.0 and if 3.0 when 3.0 shows up, I think my wife might actually have a heart attack because there's a lot of things that I'm currently working on and that pre-programming or the reactivity piece of things that there's like all of us have that piece
Hmm.
where like we react and we're like, man, I fucking hate that I react that way, but
Right.
I don't know how to fix it.
It's just a program you just have to rewrite. And
Mhm.
along those lines, like I've been surprised by the people that I've met who are successful, financially abundant, I mean, and success obviously isn't just that, but the people that have started from little or not much and who have a large level of abundance now or a high level of abundance now, most of them I see when they're out, like big spending or whatever, their story behind it is I have to remind myself that I can do that. You know, they're literally continuing to reprogram themselves in real time because it wasn't always that way.
Yeah.
They couldn't always go drop a bunch of money on a big stake or whatever it is, or a Tesla or whatever at whatever level. And so I think it's interesting to because I came from a middle class household. We had plenty of things and plenty of abundance, but it didn't feel like it. It always felt like coupon clipping and work is hard and you're never going to have enough and you have to be, chintzy on everything. You have to
Yeah.
buy the cheapest item and like those types of things. We had a lot, but it just felt like scarcity. It came from scarcity, you
Yeah,
know.
and I think that's something. I mean, I'm currently always working on that, and our good friend Patrick is constantly helping me with book selections and such to reprogram that piece because money still feels uncomfortable to me. Uh,
Hmm.
and sometimes I have to remind myself, like exactly what you're saying, like $100 isn't what it used to be anymore to me. I'm
Right,
like it's like that's up to like now $1,000 where I'm like start having to kind of
right,
question. And then soon it'll be probably at 10K and then maybe it's at 500K. Like you start changing that mindset and it's money starts to mean different things to you.
right. Yeah, and it's I think about increasing your baseline. Like I heard recently, scenario where somebody got a chunk of money and they asked their mentor, like, What should I do with this?" And they're like, "You should just keep it in your bank account and don't do anything with it. Don't pay off your bills. Don't do any of that stuff. Make
But
that your now your lowest level of wealth that you see in your bank account every day."
Yeah.
And that's worth more than you're going to make back by not getting charged interest on whatever you have out there, your credit cards or whatever. But that first kind of chunk, just leave it there. And if that's $10,000, then $10,000 is the minimum you always have. And then
Hmm.
just continue to level that up along the way. And that's another way to kind of rewrite the programming of scarcity, because our scarcity mindset is going to be like, well, I'm not used to having 10K in my account. I need to go spend it on something so I can get that back to zero. How do I
Yeah.
get my account back to zero as quickly as possible? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
we don't want to do that, right?
You see that happen a lot of times with people that didn't grow up with money, where they get like that tax, it's always the poor people that are talking about the tax returns. Can't wait till the tax returns comes, and then they go and they party for like one night, bro. It's
Right.
like, and they blow their tax return, and it's like now they're back at square zero. Like, it's like it's obviously a bad place to be.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And we've all been there in our own way, just to some degree, maybe not at that extreme level, but we've been there, and in our emotional kind of resonance with money, or emotional relationship with money. So aside from that, like, with success, like, you're doing a lot of things in business, you're doing a lot of things in your relationships, you're doing a lot of things in your life to better your life. And what is the success that you're striving for? Or how do you define success, and what's that going to look like when you get there?
Yeah, this is something I struggle with as well, kind of figuring out when is enough enough. Um, when is enough money in your bank account? When is it enough things that you have? And for me, I feel like, and I could be totally wrong because I'm not there to the destination, because when I first started within the marketing space, I thought, hitting that six-figure mark was going to be great, and I got there.
And it was.
It was great for a second, and I was like, this
Right.
is not the destination, because this isn't as much
For
money
sure.
had been at one period of time, like, back in the 90s, when you'd hear your parents say, "Oh, they make six figures." And you're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, like six figures in, 2024 is is definitely not what it was in the 90s." So,
of
uh,
course.
but for me, I think it's really getting to a spot where uh, the farm with, that we're living essentially off grid. Um, and my wife's happy, with tending to the garden, and having being out in the middle of nowhere where you can't hear the barking dogs and such.
Right.
And then
Unless they're
just
your
be
own. Right.
yeah, and then just basically, you know, for me, I think it's having that ability. Right now, I'm in such a growth stage within my company that I don't have the ability just to go, you know what, I'm gonna fly to Mexico for a week, and you know, let's go enjoy ourselves. And my company isn't gonna suffer without me there. And I've
Hmm.
noticed, like, I'm not to the point yet where my company, you and I just spent a week together here a couple weeks ago, and I wish I could say that my company didn't suffer while I was spending time away, you know,
Right.
but it did. My pipeline isn't as deep as it would have been if I would have been working, because I am currently within the main sales role within the company. And a lot of that, is obviously just me, my personality, and wanting to develop processes that I go through in order, instead of turning it over to somebody who says, "Hey, develop a process for this." I want to make sure it works, and then go hire people to put forth the process, and go sell for me the way that I had figured out a way of selling within the company.
Right.
Yeah, man, I think success really is for me to get my time back and be able to do that. Statistically, I think I'm on track. Most millionaires and billionaires don't actually hit those numbers until they're in their 50s and 60s, and right on pace, bro.
There you go. Right on pace.
Yeah, right on
I
pace. I mean, like, and it's I know that I'm talking a lot about the money piece of it, but it's about what that buys us. It's about buying time to spend with our families, to create memories. Like, for example, you just went and traveled with your son in Europe for like what, 3 weeks or something last summer, and dude,
Yep.
that's something
That
he
was
gets to remember
amazing.
forever,
Yeah.
right?
Forever.
And yes, that took money, but the piece of it is how do you get that money to be able to go and be able to afford to do that and be able to afford to travel and enjoy your life because so much of us have been programmed since we were little to be part of the system, to be worker bees and go to school and work a 9 to 5 job and put in your 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week and then work until 65, which now I understand that they're even trying to push that to even later than 65.
Sure. 72, 75,
Yeah, I think
wherever.
a lot of people aren't having as many kids, and the system's starting to break, and they're starting to see that. And um, sometimes putting things into perspective by running it by children is a good or a good way to put things into perspective is by running it through children. So I had, you know,
Unfiltered.
yeah, it's like
Unfiltered responses and advice, I'm sure.
and it's definitely like you start to realize how much we've been like programmed or brainwashed. So my daughters are 12 and they already think that their dad at 45 is old. If you remember when you were
Right.
young, like your parents were in their 40s, you're like, "Oh my God, you're so old."
Right.
So I'd said to them, I'm like, can you imagine that majority of Americans are going to work another 20 years longer than your dad is old? And their like jaws hit the floor. And I was like, your dad
Right.
wants to, quote unquote, retire the next 5 years. And they're like, oh, that's really cool, Dad. Like, I mean, what retirement, I think for me, honestly, is something that's non-existent as far as like quote
Yeah.
unquote retire.
I think
Uh,
for entrepreneurs, it's a little bit different. I think we see it generally as it's not the highlight. It's not what we're going for. We're not going for that destination. It's like, well, what do we do? If
yeah,
I were retired, what am I going to do? I'm going to play golf and whatever, all good. But I think, I heard a definition of success recently that was success for this person was being happy for the most amount of time possible. And I think like what you're honing in on is that it's not about the farm, it's not about the Tesla, it's not about the things, it's about having the ability to create the life that you want. And that's what'll make you happy. Seeing your wife tending the
yeah,
garden on your 10-acre farm, or being able to have a car that when you press the button, it's going to get you to where you want to be in style and comfort and not be broken down on the side of the road. It's those things that maybe you didn't come from, that kind of security or spaciousness with the things that you've had in your life. So it's more about those things are going to make you happy, not just because they represent wealth or something like
yeah,
that, but because of the things that they bring in your life that, money, time, freedom, and resources to do the things that you want and to be able to pick up and say, hey, we crushed it this week. Let's go to Mexico. Or, hey, we didn't do so well this week, but we need to still celebrate the things that we have. Let's go to Mexico, or
yeah.
whatever. So I
Well,
think that that's a really good frame to
the
have it in, is the happiness that the abundance gets you.
the crazy thing too is that this the Tesla, I would never think we've owned this car now 14 months, and every freaking day I get into it, I'm reminded by the
Mhm.
hard work and like it's almost like it's just as exciting today for me to drive that car than when I first got it. And I would never guess that, but it's almost like that it's almost like a manifestation like button that I continue to keep hitting because I'm like,
Mhm.
holy crap, like I was able to do this. Like I prove to myself every day that the short-mindedness, the narrow-mindedness that I was thinking of prior without manifestation and without uh, a positive mindset, I would not be in this position to be able to be driving this car and be able to like actually sit there and go, you know what, like we're gonna buy a farm and this is what it looks like and this is the animals that we're gonna have on it. And like the family knows, like the family just it's not like when it's yes, there's some questions it's when, like, hey dad, when's it gonna happen? But it's not like is that gonna happen, dad? No, it's just when.
Right. Yeah, it's just when. Yeah. Yeah, and I think tapping into those real specifics of what that looks like, that's where the magic happens,
Yeah,
being
that's
able
where
to get
that vision
very,
board.
very clear on what you're trying to manifest and what you're trying to create. And then as you get that clarity, then you kind of plant it in your subconscious mind and it starts doing its magic. And then next thing you know, you've attracted this opportunity. And who knows, you pick up the phone tomorrow and you call somebody and they're like, hey, you know what? I have this 10-acre farm I'm trying to get rid of. Like, what, whatever. You never know, right?
By chance, right? Yeah, I mean, and I've the more open that I've been to the universe, the more the universe continues to keep bringing me what I actually absolutely need at that time.
Yeah.
It sounds cliche as fuck, dude, but like
It's the truth.
it's the
It's the
truth,
truth.
man.
It's all, it's frequency and resonance, I believe. And I mean, I think that also, once we've created some level of abundance, like you were talking about before, it's like $100 doesn't seem that much like that much anymore. It's like now $1,000 sounds like a lot, whatever that means. So then it's like if somebody comes to you and they're like in need and they're like, hey, you know what, $100 would like make a huge difference to me. You're like, here's $100.
Hmm.
It gives you that ability to make an impact in other people's lives with the abundance that you've created. And I know you're a giver from everything that every action I've seen you take and the time that we've known each other. Like you give your time, you give your energy, and I don't know if you give to charity or whatever, it doesn't even matter because time is money too. And but the point is that as we get more abundant, we have the ability to give back and make an impact on other people's lives. And I think that that brings me also another level of happiness,
Yeah.
is sharing that and seeing other people become better or get through challenges or whatever because I'm able to support them in whatever way in the moment,
Yeah,
and
I've
that's
I've noticed that about myself as well, that um, at the end of the day, when I'm gone from this planet, I want to know that I've made an impact,
yeah,
especially with young people that didn't have the opportunity like myself initially. Like as you know, my content producer's 17, and it's amazing how this kid that didn't have exposure like had basically kind of like thought he was just going to be a cop. Like that was his only opportunity, almost like when
right.
kids like are like, "Oh, I'm just going to go in the military because I'm a dummy," and like on paper, as far as school says, and like I don't have any other opportunities. And now he's like being exposed with producing podcasts to like all these like high level people. And now he's like, holy shit, like there is so much more out there for me than to be a cop.
Yeah,
And like I think that's amazing that I can't take credit for all of it, but I can take credit for allowing him to have a platform to be able to work on content and produce content and be able to make a paycheck for me. And eventually, hopefully, like, and he's like, and I don't know what I want to be. I'm 17, and like society's telling me by next year I have to either go to college or go get a job, and I don't even have a clue what I want to do. I'm like,
right.
it's okay, bro. Like, so I think in general, like, yeah, if we can figure out how we can tap into that piece of giving back, that brings a lot of joy, at least in my life.
Yeah, for sure. Well, along those lines, like with these younger people, maybe like doesn't sound like he was an entrepreneur. You found him, got him to, create content for you and whatnot. But like if, entrepreneurship is a pretty dedicated path, let's say. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of us work so much, a lot of us entrepreneurs, I mean, that it seems like we are just like workaholics and whatever. I don't feel that because I love what I do.
Hmm.
And it's not about having some work-life balance or anything. I think that's kind of a fallacy. It's like I love what I do, so it energizes me to continue to move the ball downfield. And if that takes me to a 16-hour day to do it, then that's what I'm doing because
Yeah.
I want to create that life that we've been talking about. So like with younger people coming into entrepreneurship, you've been in it for a while. You know what it's like. What advice would you give somebody who's like maybe aspiring to be an entrepreneur or younger and doesn't know what they're what their options are or doesn't know what entrepreneurship is about.
I think the longer that I've been doing this journey, the more I realize it's it's really almost like how quickly can you achieve those failures?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
I know that if I fail enough, that there's going to be success that comes out of all that. So,
Well, that's comforting.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right? So if you screw up enough, eventually you're going to figure it out, and it's like I think we forget that as adults, if we look back to our kids learning how to walk, how many times did they like crash and burn
Yeah, for
when they were
sure.
trying
Yeah,
to
that's a
walk,
great metaphor. Yeah.
or when they were learning how to ride a bike? You think back when you were a kid, like I remember learning how to ride a bike, dude. Like I was crashing, I was running into trees, like it wasn't perfect, man.
Hmm.
Now, as
Yeah,
an
for
adult,
sure.
I can get on a bike even if I haven't been on a bike in years, and I can just, like the saying, it's like riding a
Zoom
bike.
away.
And I think in general, I think I would tell people that are young business owners to celebrate the small wins, like whatever that looks like. I think we in general, and I'm guilty of this as well, but um, look at the day as a success. Like, you know, what are you defining success on? A lot of people define success on like if they made any money. Did we bring any money into the business today? And there's a lot of days that you don't bring money in, but you're pushing that rock every day forward in order to get to that spot where you're consistently bringing money in. So, like, what did you do today to move your business forward? Maybe it was, setting up these planting some seeds that are going to produce fruit. And sometimes you don't know when that fruit's going to produce. It could produce tomorrow. It could produce in,
Yeah,
years down the road.
right.
And being okay with not knowing, I guess, and having faith or whatever you want to call it that it's going to work out. Uh,
Right.
One thing that my wife always tells me is because she's my, biggest cheerleader, and I think that's important as well as if you have somebody you're involved with as a business
I
owner.
definitely need more cheerleaders around.
Yes, that like we all need more cheerleaders, but I think a lot of times our spouse, our significant other, or whoever we're involved with, a lot of times they don't really understand this journey that we're on as a business owner. And
Hmm.
it can be frustrating to a person that's a little bit more programmed to the 9 to 5 punch the clock type of situation. But the one thing that Jen always consistently tells me, she doesn't understand a lot of what we do for work, but she always will tell me, if anybody can figure this out, I know it will be you.
There you go. Boom.
And so I think it's important to also have somebody that is in your corner that's consistently cheering you on and wants to see you succeed because, there's a lot of days, man, as you know, you feel like you've gotten beaten up. And
Hmm.
the next day and you're like, round motherfucking 20, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. That's right.
Go, man. I got my couple black eyes and a bloody lip still. Let's go.
Right. They say scars fade, glory lasts forever, I think is what they say.
Something like that. Yeah.
It lasts longer than the scars, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, man. For
Usually.
sure.
Yeah. Well, here we are on Epic Mind Visions, and you've definitely made so much progress in your life over the last couple of years or a few years and have just been dedicated to the mission, had these catalysts for, awakening, if you will, in whatever ways, and creating the visions to manifest. What are the future visions that you're looking for besides just having that 10-acre farm or, having whatever material objects? Like, what's the future vision for Spencer? We've talked about this before as far as like Spencer 3.0. Like, what does that mean from a personal standpoint instead of a material standpoint?
I think for me, it's really getting the business to a spot where I can uh, really call my shots during the day and during the week with my time. If I want to go to the gym and like maybe I go there and I only have it penciled out to be an hour workout, and I go to the gym and I'm like really enjoying myself, and I'm like, hey, you know what? Like today I wasn't going to hit the sauna or the steam room and the jacuzzi, but you know what? I'm really enjoying myself and I'm enjoying like having some time away, and I'm just going to I know I don't have like these commitments. Like I
Right.
don't have to rush back to an appointment or whatever the case is. And so having that freedom, having the freedom as my kids become older, um, I have a lot of this freedom already, but and I already try to do as much as I can, but my kids see me work a lot. And I don't think it's a bad thing. But on the other hand, I want to be in a position where I can be as present as
Hmm.
possible.
Right.
And so not necessarily act like I don't have a job, but even as being a business owner now, the last almost 15 years, every day I wake up like I have a job. And it's almost like I clock in mentally. And I'd
Mhm.
like to get to a spot where I could kind of just not
Like get
technically.
to a spot where you're not, you don't just have a job, but you're the boss.
Yeah, I
Because
have.
the boss is having a boss lifestyle and he's saying, I got people to do these things
Yeah,
and they're doing those things and I'm making sure everything's flowing right and I'm putting out fires if they come up. That's boss, right? That's
yeah,
what the boss does. So
yeah.
moving
And
more into boss
boss
status.
boss mode for sure. And I think boss mode then allows me to just really be able to live that lifestyle that I want to live, be able to, if there's a retreat in Austin, Texas that I want to go to and go
Come on
visit
down, y'all.
I
Hell
come on
yeah.
down to Austin, we can hang out. Um, I was listening to a podcast. I don't remember who it was, but it was I think it might have been Tony Robbins and Ed Milet. They're talking about joy, not happiness, because I think that's really a really kind of open-ended uh,
Mhm.
word, happiness. Like what defines happiness? Because I think that's a little bit more um, that can
Yeah,
vary.
feels more specific to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So joy. One of the things that they talked about it was not the number in your bank account. It seemed to be resonated with people that did um, acts of service for volunteering, as well as being in situations where they could enjoy experiences with their friends. And that friendship bond is what people had defined as being joyous is being able to like, hey Jeff, like what do you got going on next week? Oh bro, I don't have anything. Like I'm gonna catch a flight, dude. I'm gonna come down, we're gonna hang.
Yeah.
Right. Just having that freedom, bro, to be like, fuck work. Like
Let's do it.
fuck the company is gonna be fine.
Yeah.
That's right now I'm not in that position where I'm like, you know what? Like, who cares? The company's gonna be fine because there's people that are still counting on me within that company.
Yeah. Right.
And then eventually I want to get this company. I think a lot of us are serial entrepreneurs, and I want to get to a spot where I can diversify and really start to do something that's a full-on passion project. And I'm not quite sure what that is, but be able to take some of my wealth that I have earned and be able to really focus on something that really just, I mean, not that what we do doesn't light me up, and I don't actually ever feel like I'm going to a job because I enjoy ranking people's businesses on a daily. But I want to get to a spot where I can, you know, just kind of be the shot caller and just
Right. Explore other opportunities and yeah, move about the world. Well, that's awesome. Well, as we close down here, is there any parting thoughts that you want to convey to the audience? We've been through a whole bunch of different topics here and just, I love the fact that you have built the business that you have off the back of crisis,
yeah,
basically built the mindset that you have off the back of crisis. I think that's when it really becomes real for us. And for me, at least, that's why I have so much gratitude for the life that I've been able to create. And it's definitely not perfect, but when I look back at the past life that I was living and the challenges I was going through, I can tap into gratitude pretty quickly
yeah,
because of where I'm at now. So
yeah,
it's awesome to be connected to more people who have had similar experiences like that. And I look forward to continuing to learn and grow with you, diversifying everything that we're doing, diversifying our relationships, and doing cool shit along
yeah,
the
man,
way.
for sure. Yeah. What I would say is the path's never going to be easy. Um, and sometimes I think that we don't want it to be easy. We don't need it to be easy because there's
Right.
so many lessons that are learned along that tough hard road. Keep pushing the rock. Um, and a lot of times I envision that little guy that's he's like in a mine. There's like the two people in their mine and they're like chiseling away.
Right.
And he's like really close to like the gold nugget or the
Yeah,
diamond.
yeah. Yeah, I've
And the
seen it.
guys are already walking backwards. Like we never know how close we are to like striking gold. And we never
Right.
know what that experience is that's going to change our lives forever.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I think to play off of that, I think we're always 3 feet from gold, you know. We're it's always right there, that catalyst that we talked about. Like what is that flashpoint that can happen in our, from the future that's gonna make that big difference? What is that gold that we can actually tap into? It can happen in any moment and we can help create it just by who we are, who we be, how we show up in the world, and how open we are to the things that are around us. The
yeah.
more open we are, the more I realized a long time ago, like how shut down I was. And the leadership program that I just went through last year in Austin really showed me that I was being stingy not only with my resources, but with, well, energy is a resource, but with my energy. I'm shut down. I'm not exuding joy or openness to the world around me. I'm more shut down in an individual process. And perhaps that's why I wasn't experiencing the levels of abundance that I want to, because I'm being stingy with my own energy. I'm being stingy and closed with the resources that I do have. And the universe is like, well, if that's the way you want to be, then I'm going to be the same way or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how all that stuff plays together, and it's a practice. It's I'm leaning into it and learning through it in every moment and releasing those past programs. I mean, I say all the time, for me, entrepreneurship is a spiritual path because it puts me up against every comfort zone that I have and every story that I have written in my head. It challenges all of that, and
Mhm.
it is a catalyst for growth in every moment, and that's why I love it. And I love the way that it plays into not just how I show up and be in the business world, but how I show up and be in every relationship that I have and in every opportunity that comes about.
Yeah. I think the relationships that you develop in life, I'm noticing more how important those relationships are.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of close people in my life. A lot of that's due to I think a lot of people can't relate to our life that you and I live with as an entrepreneur. A lot of people are so used to punching the clock that they don't understand the like, oh, dude, I'm sorry I can't come hang out, man. I'm still working away here.
Right. Well, and it's having that relentless pursuit of growth, because you know that to be that boss leader that you want to be, and that you aspire to be, you're going to have to grow. And you're not going to grow sitting around watching Netflix and whatever. You have to be banging on your craft all the time.
Yeah, and so I think some of my best relationships that I've found are people that are entrepreneurs that I can meet up for lunch, even though we haven't seen each other in 6 months. And it's almost like we haven't missed a beat, man. It's just like how's
Right.
life? Like we relate to each other so quick. And so, just a little word of advice to those young business owners is make sure that you find some other business owners that you can relate to as well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Spencer. I
Yeah, man.
love talking to you. I love learning more about your life and your journey and where you're going, because I want to be on that journey with you. I want to help you grow, and I know that you and I can act as mirrors for each other and help each other grow along the way, because we have that level of trust. We've built that level of real, just yeah, trust in our relationship. So I appreciate you joining me, and I
Yeah,
look
man.
forward to seeing you very soon.
Like I always tell my other entrepreneurial friends is I'll see you at the top of the mountain, bro.
I'll see you at the top of the mountain. Thanks,
Yeah.
Spencer. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah. Thanks, man.